Hello, and welcome to this prep video on common academic vocabulary words so you can understand what is being asked of you when you get questions on the SAT coming up. And so the words, these are some common, they're not all of the words, but these are some common academic vocabulary words that questions on the SAT will use to help you figure out what kind of skill you should use for a specific question. So understanding what these words mean will help you understand what it is you're looking for when you are answering questions. These words are infer, analyze, evaluate, develop and development, compare and contrast, synthesize, determine, and explain. Starting with infer, to infer is to form an opinion or an idea. When a question is asking you to infer, they want you to come to some sort of conclusion or some sort of opinion or claim. So a question could be like, what can you infer about the main character's personality based on their actions? They want you to form an opinion or an idea about the main character's personality based on the actions in the story. Analyze means to look at something closely, to look closely at something. The question is asking you to reread the information and make an inference about what you read. So analyzing is like similar to inferring. It's asking you to infer. For example, analyze how the main character talks to her mom. So they want you to go back and reread how the main character talks to her mom. And then they ask, what can you infer about the main character's personality based on their actions? If that looks similar, it's the same question from before. We just added the beginning saying, analyze how the main character talks to her mom. That is your prompt, or that is the test prompting you or telling you, hey, you should go back and look at the text so that you can understand which answer is correct. Evaluate. Evaluate means about the same thing as infer, so using the information you know or have learned to come up with an idea or answer. Evaluate is typically used more on math questions than English ones, but you can still see them on English questions. But for example, a math question, using the Pythagorean theorem, evaluate the length of each side of the triangle. So evaluate means to use the information that you know to come up with an answer. Typically in math, but not always. Sometimes you'll see it in English. Compare and contrast. Compare means to tell somebody, like tell me or tell your answer should tell you or tell the reader. Tell me how two things are similar. Contrast, tell me how two things are different. So, for example, compare and contrast how Emily and Sarah treat their mother in the story. You're going to compare things that are similar between the two of them and contrast things that are different between the two of them. So compare and contrast do not mean the same thing. They actually mean very different things. And this is what those questions are asking you when they ask you to compare and contrast. Explain. You hear me say this a whole lot, but explain means to make your ideas clearer by describing them in more detail. Questions might ask you, which of the following best explains why? Or which of the following citations best explains the idea that? Explain just means to make it clear. So you'll want to choose the answer that gives the most detail and makes it very clear what the idea, what the author's idea is. So whatever makes the ideas the most clear and has the most detail is the best explanation. Develop and development. Questions might ask you how you know something in a story or an article is developed. The word develop means how something grows or changes over time. So what they're really asking you is how the story's characters or conflict have changed over the course of the story. So how did the author show that things have changed or things have gotten more clear or things have been described more as the story or as the article goes? So for example, explain how the author developed the theme throughout the story. So they want you to explain, so make it clear how the author developed or created, expanded, or showed the growth or change of the theme throughout the story. How did they develop it? What kind of things did they include in their story to show us that the story has changed or that the conflict has changed or grown? That is what develop or development means. Synthesize means to take two or more ideas and combine them into one. So sometimes stories or articles have multiple meanings and ideas in one. These questions will ask you to then synthesize these ideas and explain what they have in common, how they are similar or different, or how these different meanings or ideas affect your understanding of the text. So sometimes you'll read an article and it's got a lot of facts and figures, but it also has a lot of like entertaining stories and examples. It has multiple meanings and multiple ideas. And at this point, you need to be able to synthesize and explain, so put them together and explain how all of those different ideas and meanings and concepts, how they affect your understanding of the text as a whole, the whole thing. And that is synthesize. Determine. Similar to analyze and infer, the word determine means to come to a conclusion based on evidence. Questions might ask you to determine what is the theme or the main idea of a text, or how to determine how the figurative language is used in a poem, how that affects your understanding. We've used the word determine a lot. It just means figure out, to figure out what something is, or figure out how something affects the way you understand a text, how you understand or how you interpret or figure out the meaning behind different text, articles, stories, poems, everything. So why do we use this? There are many reasons why understanding these academic vocab words are important. Just to name 4, they help us better understand our English course. English class is much easier if you understand these academic vocabulary words. Not only English, but it helps us better understand our other courses, science, social studies, psychology, math even. If we understand what the questions are asking us, answering and creating answers and choosing answers from questions is going to be a whole lot easier for all of our classes, not just English, if we understand this vocabulary. It helps you better understand news and current events. These words are not only used in school. Develop and development is used a lot in journalism or on the news. Like, we'll update you as the story develops, as the story grows, as the story changes, as we get more details. The word explain, hey, can you explain that? Determine, you'll have to figure things out, whether it be in your job or in your day-to-day life. You'll have to determine what is important, determine what is going on. All these words just help you better understand the world around you. And lastly, and I'd argue most importantly, it helps you create your own ideas based on facts and evidence. You have to, as a person in society, be able to make up your own mind about things. You don't just want to be told what to do all the time. And understanding these different vocabulary words can help you better understand the world around you and make your own choices, your own decisions, your own opinions and ideas based on facts and evidence, based on your experiences, the things you've read, the things you've seen. All of those will shape your own ideas, identity, and opinions. And the only thing I'm trying to teach you is to make sure that you can do that based on facts and evidence and not just be persuaded by anything that you hear. That has been understanding vocabulary, common academic vocabulary words, so you can understand more specifically in our case, test questions for the SAT, so you can understand what is being asked of you. Awesome. Good luck.